I made a little platform for my cake topper and I want to show you guys how I do that. First, I go over to my cake and make sure the cardboard circles that I have will fit on top. If they don't, I just cut them down to size and those look pretty good. Now I have a hot glue gun. I have 3 cardboard circles and I'm going to put the grease-proof side facing down. That part will be touching the cake. I have a hot glue gun and I am just getting a little bit of hot glue all along the back of this. And then I'm going to take that next board and align it directly on top. I'm going to put it on the edge to make sure that it is perfectly centered on top of there. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other one, getting a little bit of hot glue down and placing the other circle on top. Now I like to use hot glue because it has a really strong hold. You can use any kind of glue that you would like, but I just prefer to use hot glue. And I'm really pressing it down to make sure that it is adhered. And now I want to just clean this area that I had the glue on because I'm going to start rolling out the fondant. So I want to get down a little bit of cornstarch and roll out this fondant, making sure that it is wide enough to cover the cardboard circle, and you can see how thin it is there. And I'm just using a fondant smoother to remove any air bubbles. I have some piping gel, and I'm getting piping gel all along the top of this. So I want to make sure I go over the edges, and you can also go down the sides too if you want the fondant to come down the sides, but I'm going to put a ribbon on there and I'm gently laying this fondant on top. You see I started on one end and let it fall down to the other side. That way no air bubbles would form behind it, and I'm just making sure that it is completely adhered and using my fondant smoother to smooth it all out. And if you put piping gel on the sides, you can just press it against the sides like I'm doing now and it will stick. However, I'm not doing that. I'm adding a ribbon. So there's 2 options here. You can cut it so the fondant comes over the top edge a little bit. This all depends on how thick your ribbon is. After you do that, I remove the excess fondant and I'm just smoothing it with my fingers. But then I decided I didn't want to have it like that. I probably should have kept it like that, but I decided to trim off the rest of the fondant and have the fondant just meet the very top edge. You want to make sure that your ribbon is thick enough so it will cover all of the cardboard. But again, I just removed the excess fondant and I'm smoothing it out with my fingers. And now I'm wrapping the ribbon around here just to measure how long it should be, and I'm cutting it off. And then I am holding it up against here to make sure that it covers all of the cardboard, and it does. So I'm getting some non-toxic glue all along the back of the ribbon and on the side of that cardboard, just making sure it is all covered with the glue. And then I'm putting the ribbon on here, just making sure that it is nice and even and it is covering all of that cardboard. And when I get to the back, I just put down a little bit more glue where it overlaps and press that down. I'm using my fingers just to smooth this out. You see how there's some wrinkles here, so I just really want to press it down there and smooth it out, and that looks good. So now I'm going to work with the topper. So I made that topper. I have tons of videos showing you how I make toppers. I will link it below. But I am creating a little hole here for my skewer to go in, and I just need to see where the skewers are going to touch the platform so I can create some holes in here. And I forgot, I wanted to have another skewer in here, so I had to put it on the other side as well. And this fondant is still soft, so I'm just making little marks where that's going to go, making sure that is center. And then I have a skewer and a hammer, and I'm hammering the skewer in here to create a hole. I had to put it over the side of the countertop so it could go completely through. And on the back where there was a little bit of cardboard sticking out, I just removed it with some scissors, and doing the same thing for the other one, just hammering that through and cutting away the excess cardboard that was created by making that hole. And now I am putting a skewer. I need a really long skewer to go in there. So I picked it out and I wet the skewer, and then I am just sliding these in that pre-made hole that I just made. I'm twisting it in there. And now I want to get my cake out of the refrigerator so that icing is cold and hard. I'm not going to mess it up. Getting a little bit of icing on the top. I don't want too much. I want this to sit flat, so just enough to make it stick. You can use piping gel if you want. And I'm centering that on the very front, making sure those 2 dots are facing forward so I can center this letter on here. And I'm getting a little bit of piping gel underneath that fondant piece, and I'm gently sliding this down. You got to work with it a little bit just to make sure that it goes through the pre-made holes. There it goes. And I'm pushing it all the way down until the bottom part touches the platform, and here it is. How cool is that? I like to do this when I feel like it just needs a little something else on the top of the cake. I feel like the G would have looked a little out of place or too plain if I just stuck it on the top of the cake without the platform. And the same thing for this little high heel cake that I made. I feel like that shoe looks really nice sitting on the platform rather than being on the top of the cake because the shoe and the top tier are the same color. So this is a simple way to add a little more visual interest to your cakes.